Hi MTC artists, welcome to your second edition of Art Outside the Classroom. My name is Jenna and today we will be painting with coffee. We will be using the following materials for this assignment. One thick sheet of paper, preferably watercolor paper. This is so your paper will absorb all of the extra water. It'll be good to have a scrap piece as well, just to do some tests for the coffee strengths. You'll need a pencil to do your sketching, and of course, a cup of strong coffee. What I did was I actually saved my coffee from the previous morning and boiled it down and made it stronger. The key is to get it as dark as possible, and we can always dilute later. You will need a paintbrush to apply your coffee washes, some paper towels, a palette or a plate, some fresh water to dilute your coffee and rinse your brush, and finally the optional box of crayons. These are great to add extra color on top of our coffee wash and define our darks and lights. So as you can see, I've started to sketch out the image that I would like to start painting in coffee. And this one is of a horse. So I've made sure to be pretty light. I've gotten a little bit dark in some areas, but I want a nice light pencil mark so that I can erase it out later and so it won't be visible under our coffee. And so I'm actually going to start lightening this a little bit more with just an eraser that I have. This is just to lighten some of those lines up. But also when you're sketching out your image, try to make sure that you're defining areas that will be painted completely dark and completely light. For example, inside this horse's ear is completely dark. His eye will be very, very dark as well. And I have this small line here where I've kind of outlined the shape of the shadow that will be on his nose. Up here in his neck, I know that that will be very, very light, so I won't even paint this area here. Or I'll put a nice smooth wash of just pure water down so it can blend in. So I will finish working on this and we will report back and get started with our coffee. So here I go with my brush. I dipped it in some coffee and I'm about to lay in some of the dark colors around his neck. You see that I am blocking out those distinct areas with darks, and then I'm blending out with the residual coffee that's on my brush. I'm kind of going back and forth. I might be dipping in water or a lighter wash, but again, I'm concentrating those dark tones right in that eye and that ear and the nose, and then I'm blending upwards and thinning it out as I go. I'm continuing to add those colors and blending it out. I'm doing a large wash of the entire area of the shoulder with some pure water. That's going to help things slide around a bit more. And just overall going over it with water will even out any stray marks and little edges that might have come about by drying. So I let that dry for a little bit. I actually took a hairdryer to it. Be careful not to spread your coffee around with the hairdryer. You're just trying to hit it from above and dry it a little faster. But here I go adding in the background with a nice wash of the coffee as well. Like I said, you can begin working in layers with this. So as you do the background, your middle is drying and you can go back over it once it's dry. See how I'm darkening those shadows. Again, it's a game of building up. I'm finding any creases. Earlier I added in some of those nice marks. There you go. I go back over them. Kind of creases that show the skin folding. Darker areas. That face is the darkest, most contrasty part of the horse. So there I am trying to pull any shadows out that I can. There I was focusing on defining the outside of the face and just going back in and pushing any of those extra darks, smoothing things out. Remember, we really want to show the muscle and the form of the horse. So now that that's dry, what I'm doing is I'm adding some color to the background. You can see I'm going lightly. My pencils all going in my crayons all going in the same direction. But I do end up switching that up a little bit further on in the video. There you go. There I am. This is actually going to give it a more blended kind of look. And I ended up running with this kind of crazy mark making because I already felt my coffee was very crazy, but also smooth at the same time. So I'm trying to embrace that here, that wildness. Yep, still building and building. This is taking a little bit of work. Remember, you can go as far or as little as you want with these crayons. As you can see in a moment here, I took things to a little bit of an extreme. But I'm using many different colors, and I'm just going over and making a nice, even background. And making sure I'm getting in all those crevices to define them. Uh-oh guys, that was embarrassing. My camera ended up cutting out right as I was starting to layer all those Crayola colors. But let's go ahead and take a look at the finished product. As you can see, I added many different colors to the background. I made sure to press really hard. I was burnishing the paper, meaning creating almost a waxy-like cover. You can actually wipe this away with some paper towels a little bit later. But I kind of went crazy with it. I did it in all different directions. And honestly, I like the scratchy effect that you can almost get with the crayons. So I did go maybe a little bit overboard. If I were you, what I would do is scale back on the crayons. Again, they make such rich colors. I was so intrigued that I couldn't resist, but let's let those beautiful coffee tones show through. What the coffee tone did do for my drawing and painting was it really established some darks for which I could follow. So it was almost like a second version of sketching where I was mapping out the values of each area. So I had blocked this out with darkness, with dark coffee, and then this out with dark coffee. Maybe I could have left the background a nice wash, or maybe left some of the horse in here, that nice wash of coffee as well. But overall, I like the finished product. Maybe it was different from what I had in mind. One more thing that I wish I would have done a little bit different is left some beautiful brights to shine through. Like maybe here in this area or here on his nose where that light is hitting him. Boom, right on the side. You can kind of see it in the shoulder, but if I just left a little bit more and ignored a little bit of that area, we would have been in better shape. So what the crayon helps me with is establishing those darks and lights and actually adding a little bit of vibrance to it. But again, scale back, you guys. I really want to see that lightness, or do multiple. It's always great to experiment, and no experiment is lost. Okay guys, now it's time for you to get started on your coffee painting. Remember, the steps are as follows. First, you need to sketch out whatever design you are trying to paint, whether it's a representational animal or even something abstract. It doesn't matter. Go ahead and grab your pencil and start lightly sketching. Remember, you're not wanting to press dark. The key is to keep it light so that none of those pencil marks will show through your coffee after it's painted on. The next step will be swatching your coffee. You're trying to brew a really dark cup of coffee so that you can lighten it as you go. So maybe have a couple little containers or your paper plate to mix everything in and test that out before you go straight to your painting. And last, when you're ready to paint, go ahead and lay those coffee tones carefully in. Remember, you're following a pattern of darks and lights. If you have all your darks and lights blocked off, then you can just go in like it's paint by numbers and slowly layer. Remember, you can let all of this coffee dry in between and it's going to work like watercolor. You can get it wet again and it'll start to move around a little bit more. Try not to overwork it. Remember, you're trying to get those dark darks and those light lights, and the only way to get those lights is to not paint a section of your paper. It's hard. You just saw how I thought it was hard. But other than that, best of luck. What you can do is upload a picture to our Google Classroom, which is in the link below, and you can check out all of our other work as well. So I will see you next time. Bye, guys.